If you have an old felony conviction here in the US, and especially if you live in California or Arizona, Michigan, Minnesota, or Ohio, I have really good news for you. In those states and in most of the states in the country, there's a way for you to restore your rights after being convicted of a felony. Every state has kind of like, well, not every state, but a lot of states have like a process for you that you can restore your rights after getting out of prison or getting off of probation. But those five states that I just mentioned, they have really good restoration statutes that you can apply to get your rights restored. And so in today's video, I'm going to talk about what these restoration of rights statutes are, what these laws are in these states. And then just in general, kind of what every state's kind of looking at when they're going to allow a person to restore their firearm rights in these states and in any other state that has them in the country. Now, well, first of all, my name is Darren Woodfork. I'm an attorney in Scottsdale, Arizona, and here at my firm, one of my practice areas is I restore I seal old criminal cases, and I also restore firearm rights here in Arizona. In Arizona, we have two different statutes. One statute is to seal old cases. Another statute is to restore firearm rights, essentially. But in the rest of the country, in the rest of the country, all states have most states have some similar type of like second chance law, and that's what I'll be talking about today. And so let's begin as far as what the second chance laws are. And essentially, once you are convicted of a felony, you are one of the penalties of being convicted of a felony is you lose your civil rights. So not only do you have to go to jail or you have to go on probation, but you also lose the civil rights that all Americans have, which is, the right to vote, the right to serve on a jury, the right to serve in elective office, and the right to carry a gun. Now, so you come out of prison, you have those penalties on your record. Well, in one of the avenues or one of the options that's available for you is that you can go into court and ask the court to restore your rights. Ask for your rights back, your rights to serve on a jury, all that stuff. One of the things I mentioned on this channel was that in Arizona specifically, back in 2022, there was a statute that was done by the legislature and signed by the governor where it said that if you have a felony conviction that happened after 2022, you did your sentence, you paid all your fines, you did everything that you were supposed to do, that your rights were automatically restored after 2022. And that's if, like I said, if your case was after 2022. In that scenario, just as an aside, you still want to file a motion to get your firearm rights back because you still want to get like the order from the judge to get that back. But anyways, all states in the states, the five states that I mentioned, California, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, and Arizona, we all have really good ways to get your gun rights back in the court process. So that's big picture. That's what it is. And a lot of people just didn't know that, and it kind of surprised me that a lot of people don't know that there's a way to go to court and get your gun rights back so that you're a full-fledged citizen with your, Second Amendment rights. But that's it. And again, every state has some type, or not, again, I keep saying every, but most of the states in the country have a way to do that. So just check with your state or check with an attorney in your state. And they can help you. Incidentally, if you contact my law firm, and I'll have all my contact information here in Arizona, I can help you, find an attorney in another state so you can apply there because you have to apply where your old case is out of. Basically, where you were convicted, where you did your jail time, where you did your probation, that's where you file the motion to restore your firearm rights, as opposed to where you live now. I guess that's usually what people ask. They ask if, they're living in Arizona now, but they have an old case in Pennsylvania. I always have to tell them that you have to go file in Pennsylvania, essentially get your firearm rights back. So that's kind of like the big picture process of it. Now, when you get kind of into the statutes, um, there's some cases where you cannot get your firearm rights back ever. And at least in Arizona, it's those serious cases that you would imagine, like, first degree murder cases, cases involving children, things like that. Cases where you did a lot of prison time for. Back in the day, those cases, they call those dangerous cases here in Arizona, and you cannot get your firearm rights back at all. Then there's other cases that are like one step lower than that, which they call serious cases. And those are cases a lot of times involving weapons, involving violence, things like that, armed robbery, things like that. Those violent cases, especially involving weapon, if they're not classified as dangerous, then they're classified as what's called serious. In those scenarios, you have to wait 10 years in Arizona before you can file a motion to get your gun rights back. And all states have these kind of like excluded felonies that you can't file a motion to restore your rights for. And so it's just check your particular state to make sure that your old criminal conviction will qualify for getting restored. And so that's the first thing you have to do. You look at what kind of old case you had. That's going to determine whether or not you can file, and it's also going to determine whether or not the judge grants it, or, as I always say, whether or not you have a realistic chance of the judge granting it based on the old case and the nature of the old case, things like that. Now, with that said, after you kind of get over that hurdle of that your case qualifies, then in Arizona, and I would assume in any other state in the country, there's a waiting period. Essentially, from the day you get out of prison, or really the day after you pay your restitution, you pay your fines, you pay all your financial obligations, you've done everything that you had to do when the judge sentenced you for the felony, you completed all your requirements, then the clock starts. After that, most states, there's a waiting period on the books. And like I said, in Arizona, for those serious cases, there's a 10-year waiting period, like on the books, essentially. But all the other cases that aren't serious, like just your garden variety felony cases, if you're talking about, a theft case, forgery case, things like that, like the medium type felonies here in Arizona, there's no specific time that you have to wait, but I've been doing this for 25 years and I've seen the judges, anything under 5 years, they're more likely to deny the motion. So you're better off waiting. It's been 5 years since the time that you paid off your fines and all that stuff before you file a motion to restore your gun rights. Again, there's no set time limit in the statute, but just in practice, that's when the judges grant the motions. And at least in Arizona, and I would assume that's in any other state in the country, the judges have 100% total discretion. And so just because you can file under the law doesn't mean that the judge will grant it. And if the judge says no, they have 100% discretion in order, to deny the motion. So that's what I mean when I say, there's no time limit on the book, but if you wait 5 years at a minimum in most felonies, you should be okay. However, the best case scenario is if you have just like a low grade, theft and means case, 20 years ago, that's going to be the best scenario for you as far as like the waiting periods go. So, but anyways, in Arizona and any other state, there's most likely going to be a waiting period time. And part of that reason, or the underlying justification for that is that all judges want to see a period of time of you being a law-abiding citizen. And so basically, you want to be able to say, Judge, I've had no contact with the criminal justice system since this old case when I was, 19 years old or whatever. That's kind of the theory of it. And sometimes the judges will say, I'm denying the motion because I just haven't seen enough time of you being a law-abiding citizen or whatever. What they'll say what they'll say sometimes in the decision is they'll basically say it's not in the public interest to give you your rights back, essentially because it hasn't been enough time on the waiting period. So that's the second thing, really, the second kind of hurdle you have when you're filing the motion to restore your gun rights in Arizona or any other case. Now, once you figure out that you can qualify kind of and you have a good shot at it, then there's some particulars of filing the motion, or this, what are the details basically in the motion that you have to file with the court. The motion to restore your rights here in Arizona, anyway, and I would assume it's the same in any other state, is that you have to give the court all your biographical information, where your address is, your the old case number, your phone number, your email. You'll have to say, where you were arrested way back when, what police agency arrested you way back when, what county or what town prosecuted you back then. You'll have to explain, and like I say, you'll need to have the case number. You'll have to have the police report number. You'll have to have all that information so that the court will know kind of what to look into. All that has to go into the motion when you file it with the court. That's the bare bones of what it is anyway. That's in your typical motion. And then after you file that stuff, one of the things, or that, well, or at the same time, I should say, when you hire myself or you hire a lawyer in your state to put this together for you, one of the things that we'll do is, in addition to just like the basic motion that is filed, we will get together what's called mitigation material or good character material, and we'll get a letter from you. I'll write a letter on your behalf as your lawyer. We'll get a letter from your family, friends, co-workers, anybody in the community, church, anything like that. Anybody who has like good things to say on your behalf, we'll get that together too, and that will be attached as exhibits into your motion to restore your firearm rights. And you do that because you want to give the judge a lot of evidence of your good character, and especially what you've done since the old case. That's good for the community. And so you put all that together in addition to like just the basic motion. And then you file that with the judge. Also, you might have a hearing when it comes to gun rights. I haven't seen many hearings lately, and I'm recording this in 2026, but back in the old days, in the mid 2000s, every now and then the judge would make you come in and appear in open court, and the judge would ask you about why you want to restore your firearm rights and why do you think the judge should grant them, things like that. And that was like done in open court in person. I was there with my clients and all that. That doesn't happen a lot. I haven't seen it a lot lately. And so, but that's always a chance where the judge could order a hearing in order to restore your rights here. So that's part of like the technical process when you have the motion that you file, and then you have there could be a hearing. Now, one of the things that people always ask me is about how long it'll take to get a decision after you file the motion. And at least in Arizona right now, it's about 6 months to about 9 months to get a decision. And I assume that in any other state, well, I don't know what it is in other states. I know in California it takes about 4 months to get a decision for your gun rights, but any other state, I'm not sure. But there's always going to be some time lag for the administrative part of it, because one of the things that has to happen definitely in Arizona, and I assume anywhere else, is when you file your motion to restore your rights, they're once the judge gets the motion on their desk, they're going to send it out to the prosecutor's office, and they're going to ask the prosecutor, they're going to say, hey, look, this defendant is filing their motion to restore their gun rights. What do you think? And so the prosecutor is going to go through their old records and find out about the old case. They're going to look at the old police reports, see about what the witnesses had to say, things like that. Incidentally, the judge will also notify any victims of the case that you're filing a motion to restore your gun rights also. And so, um, and then the judge also notifies the Department of Corrections or the probation department. Department of Corrections is a prison system. And then the probation department, and they'll see, how were you when you were in prison? How were you when you were on probation? They'll ask, all that. And then the final thing they'll ask for they'll call the financial division of the jurisdiction and make sure that all fines, all restitution, all fees have been paid from the old conviction, and they'll make sure all that stuff is done. So anyway, so that all that in administrative stuff that takes time, and because of that time, at least in Arizona, they give them about 60 days to respond. And so, you're once you file, you're waiting at least 2 months to get a decision for all those people to respond and say what they think. I always say that, well, in my experience anyway, the most of the time the prosecutor's office, they don't object to the motion once they see it. Usually they'll say, all the fines have been paid off, all the statutory requirements have been met. Judge, we take no position. So normally when they take no position, again, so the judge will have just kind of like your motion with all your good character evidence, and then the prosecutor on their side basically saying that they don't have any position on it. So, that's about how long it takes as far as, the process goes. And then the final thing I'll say when it comes to, filing a motion to restore your gun rights is whether or not you need a lawyer to file it on your behalf, or if you can do it by yourself. And I've always said, if you have an old case from 25 years ago and it's a marijuana possession case or a paraphernalia case, or DUI well, not DUI, but like a marijuana case, something like that, where it's super, super, low grade felony case, you can do it by yourself. You can file the motion, and you can just file it with the court. You don't need any of that supporting evidence that I said earlier, and the judge will probably grant it if it's like one of those cases. On the flip side, on the other side of the spectrum, if it's one of those cases that was designated like serious, then you definitely want a lawyer to handle it and, to put your best foot forward, to get your motion to get your rights back. One of the problems is if you do it yourself and the judge denies it, then you have to wait, quite a bit of time to refile it, to do it again. In the motion to seal in Arizona, which is different than the motion to get your gun rights back, you have to wait 3 years after the denial if you want to try to file again, to get your rights to seal the case. And that's about the same thing too for gun rights also. If you get denied, you're gonna have to wait years to redo it. So do it right the first time, essentially, is kind of my point. So with that said, that's pretty much all it is. It's like the process from beginning to end. There is a way in Arizona and those five in most of the states in the country, there's a way to get your rights back if you've been convicted of a felony. In those 5 states that I mentioned, California, Minnesota, Ohio, Michigan, and Arizona, there's a really good way to get your rights back, a really good process to do it, and it works. And so take advantage of that. If you have an old felony case and you haven't been able to carry a firearm, things like that, you can file a motion to get your rights back. So that's pretty much all I have. My name is Darren Woodfork. I run a firm here in Scottsdale, Arizona. But if you're looking to get your rights restored anywhere in the country, please get in touch with me, and I'll get you a referral to somebody out, who's licensed to practice in the state of your old conviction. All my contact information will be in the description below. But my email is darrenw@msn.com. That's DERRONW@msn.com. The phone number here in my office is 602-284-3035. You can check out my website at woodforklaw.com. That's WOODFORKLAW.com. You can see all the information on my website. And and again, everything that is on that website is current up to 2026. Like I said, in Arizona, they just started a new law where you can seal an old case back in 2023. You'll see information on that if you live in Arizona. So anyways, hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks.